use this as a meditative practice. So many lines in Gurbani, we just say them and we're done with them. Like, don't be done with your part. But imagine if somebody said I just banged out my part. But there should be at least one body, one line, two lines where it takes you into that state. Where it's you get there and you go, Kar Vekhai, Sirjanhar. And for a moment, you get a glimpse of the Vekhai Sirjanhar. From that perspective, you start seeing the world, and you have a little moment of, Acha, I can actually watch all of this. I thought that's all I was. And then you can say, I didn't bang it out today. I actually did it. Welcome to the Japji Sahib Podcast. In this episode, we'll be going through the 31st stanza blessed to us by Guru Nanak Dev Ji. In this body, something interesting someone said to me was, why? Why has Maharaj, why has Guru Nanak blessed us with this stanza? Like, what is the message we're trying to find or take out from here? And that person is with us today, Avtar Singh. So we'll start off with a Fateh. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So Aasan Loe Loe Bhanddaar. So let's break down some of the words. So first of all, we have got Aasan. Aasan means where somebody sits or a specific seat. Aasan will often be used in the context of, say, if a sant or a saint is sitting in a certain space and they prepare that space, and that would be then referred to as an asana. So somebody that's important, somebody that's in charge, taking care of a certain place, they would sit on an asana. So asana here is obviously referring to the asana in this space or that place where that one Vaheguru sits. And then we've got the words Loe, and we've got that twice. So we haven't given the literal translation to the word Loe in this translation that we've done, but we've got to the translation of creation. But the literal translation of Loe, do you know what it is? So Loe means world. Yeah. So it's said it twice. Loe Loe means worlds, plural basically. And what it's trying to take our attention to is that Loe Loe Bhanddaar. Bhanddaar is a word I think you looked up.
Yeah, as in like somewhere where something's stored.
Yeah, so a storage place where there's a treasure or where there's something that is required and something that is needed. So for example, if now we're sitting in this house, but for this house to operate and work, the things that it requires for this house to be a house, there could be a storage place, and we've all got a storage cupboard or something in our houses. So a Bhanddaar could be seen as that. It's a place that you can get your stuff from that you need for everything to just work and operate in that space, in that household. So what this is saying is, Aasan Loe Loe Bhanddaar, that Vaheguru has, that one has made sure that whatever is needed for this creation, for it to sustain itself, and for now you're saying, how can this relate to us then? Just on this note then, we live on this planet, called Earth. So there's a Bhandara that this planet is made up of. And so the resources that we have available, but it's the same resources that this body is made up of. Yeah. So for example, we need food for this body to continue and to exist. But then that Bhandar, for that to take place, for that to happen, right? So that storehouse is the earth itself. but it's the very thing that this body is made out of. So we just need to know how to use it resourcefully to be able to maintain this body. That's one example of how to look at this. But it's also expanding our mind to saying that Waheguru's taking care of that on every possible planet or world or whatever you can think of. So now what comes to my mind is the Pankti is, when we think of it from that context, is Kahe re man chitave uddam. So it's a question. And you know where this is from, right?
Yeah, that's like, yeah.
Well done.
You've been through it a lot of times.
1 point to you. I don't think I've gone through this line often, have I?
You've done it you did it Somerset Road about 5-6 years ago.
Oh wow.
You're talking about how the man mein hai simran kariya basic part is in the common translations is wrong. And you're basically talking about using the power of Simran basically to look after the babies.
Okay, but then that then again shows that how much the project is needed to retranslate the Gurbani into English. So again, these are not this one, but the Japji Sahib is our own translations. So, but just looking at this then, from Aasan Loe Loe Bhanddaar, that Bhandara, that storehouse, that we put there is inexhaustible, that everything is here that we need to sustain this body. Just taking one example of how to look at this. And then that's why Guru Arjan Dev Ji then says it's a question and sometimes if we read it in a certain way, and if we can just feel the words, that the meaning also comes through. And even though you might not know all the words, but something starts to make sense. So for example, I would read this is how I read this line, is Kahe re man chitave uddam. It's like why? So it's Kahe re, and re means hey. So Kahe re man, hey, my mind. Why? Chittave uddam. Why are you so chittave, meaning thinking and concerned so much that I'm going to go hungry, what's going to happen? And what it's saying is that everything we need to sustain this body is already here. Waheguru's thought about that. That's how everything is made. But for us, then it's about just, using the buddhi of how to access it. And that's a whole different conversation of how this whole system on living on this planet works. And then that's the way different governments work and how to gain and how to access these things. So yeah, it's an interesting one, that is. Have you ever thought about growing your own food?
Yeah. I feel like system's wired against us, but we went closer to some natural form of living. It would probably be...
What would that look like for you if you've given it some thought?
What would it look like?
Nothing's simple, is it? So, but just give me a very simple version of how you've potentially looked at that, or how that could work.
Have an allotment or some kind of community system where you grow natural food and then you distribute it to like your local, well, there's no villages anymore, but your local center of like community.
There's no villages anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like not over here, right? Like,
Yeah.
So, but I think that I'm very, let's say, sensitive in the sense of things affect me a lot. So when I notice, for example, when I got blessed with Amrit, I didn't eat out for like a long time. As soon as I did again, I noticed my mind, my mental state just went down. And I noticed the effect of like eating out very heavily on me. So that's why I kind of mentally, I want to go back to it. Like I eat out all the time now, but I think it's very important to go back to that state of being. It helps you, when your mind is clear, it helps you unlock all those secrets that you're talking about. Like a lot of life reveals itself to you, if you just listen, if you just sit. But I feel like food is one of the things that blocks it. Like if you eat out, if I don't know, just a takeaway or something, blocks a lot of your energy from just like when you do part, it's hard to even focus. You can't focus, then you can't get what's next.
Well, that's why Guru Sahib then talks about, so within that Bhandar, remember, everything is here and everything has a quality about it. So that's why then Guru Nanak talks about Baba Hor, Khana, Khushi, Kaar, Jit Khade, Tan Pidiya, Man Meh Chale Vikar. Have you heard of that before? So here Guru Sahib is saying that Hor, Khana, Khushi, Kaar. Hor is such an interesting word here. Hor means other than. So if you're eating for a reason other than, to
Sustenance.
for sustaining this body, to nurture this body. Even if you look at that word nurture, we're supposed to be nurturing it. But like you said, you will eat things, and so will I. Try not to too often, but I'm not gonna pretend that I eat perfectly, because certain foods have a certain nature to it. And then it depends how it's been made as well. So then often food can become poor with not just the reason to sustain this body or to nurture this body. Let's use the word nurture. And it can be just purely out of taste. Doesn't mean that your food doesn't need to taste good or taste nice, because Kabir Ji has said that to us. It's cool if you need it to taste good. Put some salt in it, make it taste good, and that's fine. So Kabir Ji said that Khoob khana khichdi, ja meh amrit loon. So Kabir Ji says to us here, like, Khoob means these, I don't know, beautiful wouldn't be a word you would use for food, would it? So it's more like sone khane, but you can say beautiful as well, huh? So it's not that they have to be tasteless or completely have no salt or anything in them. So Kabir is saying, Khoob khana khichdi. But then these are the type of foods that he has recommended here. And so Kabir Ji recommends khichdi means like obviously lentils and rice and these type of foods. And he says, ja meh. Amrit loon is so ja meh. Within, what you can do is, you don't have to eat them bland, he said. He said amrit loon, he could add salt to it, which then in return it tastes more like amrit. So basically it gives it some flavor. Amrit here means flavor. So you can add flavor to it. But then if we know that that food becomes only pleasure and it's only for the mere taste, we lose. Then what's happening is, the Aasan Loe Loe Bhanddaar. The Bhanddaar was given, so the storehouse, so meaning the resources were given, but now we've started to utilize them not in the way that they are benefiting us to live a more wholesome and where we can live a more optimum life of serving. So instead, we end up eating foods that make us more lethargic, make us more sleepy. Have you ever, Preacher, you've experienced that, Hannah, when you eat certain foods and you start yawning away? No, it probably happened later today as well. Let's see what we're going to make for lunch today. Let's see if it'll change what we're going to make for lunch, because we've been doing this body. But you didn't think it'd go this direction, Hannah?
No.
But that's what Bhandar is, because look, the Bhandar's been given. Maharaj said, why are you so worried now? Like, main bhukha mar jana. He says, but you, kahire man chitta be. What I would say is, when we go back to that, because uddam means
efforts.
Yeah, effort. And the way I would translate this is that you don't have to be worried of how am I going to nurture this body, but instead what is required is some level of uddam, some level of effort in not just getting that food, but getting the right food and thinking about what, because that's an effort as well. Just doing some homework and thinking what is going to benefit me and what is not going to benefit me. Yeah. Ja ahar har jiyo parya. Because the ahar, the food that we need to sustain this body. Yeah, so that's ahar. Because it says har jiyo parya, because the har jiyo has given us that. But we require some sort of uddam, effort, even in getting that. So have you ever thought about, I know this is a little bit going off, but I think it's a really interesting topic. So then have you ever gone to the point of thinking not just having your own allotment, but ever getting back to that type and style of living? And I know it's got a very specific term for it, which I can't remember now. And I know everyone has their own opinion about this way of living, and a lot of people say it would never work and it doesn't work. And then some people think it should go that direction, is where like, so I make the clothes. So if I'm growing the cotton, and we don't really need money as such. And I know where the world is developed to now, it's almost like impossible to think that way, because this is probably how certain people lived at a certain time in life. But I'm sure there are still some villages in the world somewhere that do live more like this.
Yeah, self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that
I'll
idea.
give you a koti. This is pure cotton, by the way, organic cotton. It's pure, organic cotton koti here. I'll grow the kapda for you. Yeah. And then I'll give you that, and you give me some gajra.
Yeah, there you go.
But now, what gajra, carrots, by the way. But carrots ain't enough for this top. So don't try and do me over. And then that'll probably be the uddam part as well. The mind effort is to work out maybe a gajar and a kaddu as well.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that sounds good. I think, yeah, on the topic of just like even eating out and stuff, I think a lot of stuff in my life is just pleasure. It's just pretty empty. I uninstalled Snapchat. It took me a long time to do that. It took a lot of uddam.
To do what?
To uninstall like Snapchat.
Oh, uninstall it.
Uninstall Instagram. I just try to detox away from modern lifestyle of living. Difficult as a software engineering, because
how do you watch basics of Sikhi reels?
I occasionally install the app again, or I just don't. or YouTube. YouTube is the place where I go for my information. But
okay, we just need to make sure all our reels are within 1 minute, so you can watch them on YouTube.
Yeah, but I think it's important just to reflect on why you're doing things in your day.
But that's why I think that would be such a amazing shabad to reflect on. The Baba or Khana Khushi Khwar Jit Khade Tan Pidiye. Because Maharaj then even tells us, like, why don't you be conscious about, is it doing this for you? Tan Pidiye? Is it bringing discomfort to your body? There's so many foods that we eat that bring discomfort to us. We get a stitch, or, we feel bloated, and then like I said, we feel tired. And that's because normally some of those foods will be more so tamo foods, which then either tamo could be created even out of a food that is more sato, but then it could be beha, so where it's sat for a day or two, and that could change the energy of that food. If it's reheated multiple times, that changes the energy of the food. And like, this isn't woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
And we don't need studies to prove everything. And I'm sure there are studies out there to show this, but I'm a big fan of studies and reading studies, but some things you just have to read yourself. So like you said earlier, sunaya jog jogat tan ped. And what that means is that if we just listen enough, this is obviously deep, intuitive listening, but most of us nowadays are so disconnected to ourselves, we don't even listen to our own minds and body. And this is what this is talking about. Jog means union, or, to see that if everything is unified within me, meaning is everything working in a balanced way? Is everything flowing okay? That can be the jog here as well. And then jogat means the way. tan is the body, ped are the secrets. So if we just listen enough, the secrets to how this body works, the way to that will be revealed to us. You know, I don't even mean it in like a really woo spiritual way, but just it's just common sense, even, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and they would say when somebody says किन्नी रोटी खानी चाहिए, and then they'd say तुसी देखो अपने ढिड नूं पुछो. Yeah, but if you're really in tune, not what you feel like because of your rasana, your taste, and you're thinking, oh yeah, no, I want more. No, but you're not that listening, not listening to your taste bud, but actually listening to your whole system. Yeah. And then tanapiriye, is this causing discomfort to my system and to my body? Yeah, because if it is, then aren't I doing the opposite to looking after, nurturing my body with these resources, this bhandar that has been given, where Waheguru is saying, you don't need to worry about that. That's there, but how are you going to use it? That's the question. And I think that's what awakening is all about as well. Often I sat with some Gursikhs not long ago, and I asked them, we had this conversation, and someone asked a question, how do I know if I'm growing spiritually? How can I measure my spiritual growth? I don't think you wasn't there for that one.
I often ask that question. No, think
okay.
about
It was in the last.
it wasn't me though.
We had this. So we have this men's well-being group with, and we have these sessions called Chill and Chat. And somebody asked that in the last one. So I don't think you attended that.
Yeah,
the
I
last
came
one.
two goes ago, not the last one.
Okay, so how would you have you reflected on that question? How would you answer that then? How would you measure your spiritual growth?
I think it's kind of counterintuitive. I think it's actually when you have just a lot of the extra stuff basically goes away. So like I've apparently got ADHD, but regardless of the labels, my mind is very overactive.
Is that a self-diagnosis?
Yeah. So, well, GPs have told me, but I need to get an official diagnosis. But yeah. But in terms of my mind being overactive, when I feel like I'm making progress, it's like where everything else goes away. It's more empty. It's like emptiness, but it's not emptiness. It feels just peace. But that's with stuff going away. You think so much about accumulating more and more. You think that's what progress is, like when you know more, or or you gather more like stuff. But for me, intuitively, I would say I've had the opposite experience where if I feel like I've gone further, it's actually where stuff has just been let go of, and it's like whatever's left, that is like richness, and it's really good. So I'd feel like, yeah, probably something more to do with that.
You know, when you have that experience of where you feel like you've just let go and stopped accumulating, whether it even be information, in that moment, what's happening is you are letting go and surrendering, and you have then a moment where it's quiet, and that is essentially the har paryo Swami ke dwara is the process you are going through, and everything goes quiet in the mind. You're not accumulating more knowledge, figuring it out. You're not stuck in your thoughts, but then you access something much deeper, which is Buddha Viveka, which you then access. Because our bodies know how to do it anyway, it accesses the deeper intuition. So there's a deeper just knowing. But the trickery of the mind is, because it's so chanchal, right? It's so Mercury-like. E man chanchala and chatrai kinna paya. So it's kind of moving, and you think, no. If I just one more video, bro. The next video, what it's going to reveal to me about God is going to be it, and it's never it, is it? Just more information. And I often say that even with basics of Sikhi videos, pace yourself. Like, don't let it be another overconsumption. You know what? Sometimes I'll hear people say, I watched them all night. And I'm thinking, what about your morning meditation? You know, and then Then we went to sleep. And my wife was thinking, what's happened to him? He's gone mad. Now, of course, we want you to watch our videos. We want to carry on doing this work. But like, take time to process and meditate on things. That's why Guru Sahib uses the word vichar. Because vichar doesn't mean to constantly try and debate and work something out. Vichar means, so for example, if you give me something now, like some new knowledge, and it could be like lived for you, so it's your wisdom. Instead, and I'm sure what the studies show are that if you have a break, and if I was to then have a break of at least around 10 minutes and to just sit with it and let it process. Yeah. And that's called vichar, is when you allow something to go deeper and deeper and deeper inside of you, where it's the way I often explain it is that for me, in my experience is when first it starts at the thinking level, and then you go deeper contemplating it, and it's almost like, for me, it reaches this point, and it's like reaching my stomach, but it's not like really my stomach, but just how I feel it, and then it's something just explodes, and it's like, oh my God, I get it. And it's like, it's a firework moment, like, and that's vichar, that's contemplation, where it goes to a moment of stillness when it actually just clicks, and it's just because you've taken that time. And I think it's so important in today's age to have that time.
I think for me, I'm always overwhelmed with information, and I am that person who, your next YouTube video and again, trying to look for, just waiting for like some kind of hit of like, oh my God, it's it now, I can go to sleep. I've got all the answers, but then you just feel like the more that you have it, like you feel more hungry for more. Yeah, basically, yeah. But I find that definitely in terms of, like we spoke about this, in terms of being silent, stop trying to, even do, just sit and be okay with it.
Aasan Loe Loe Bhanddaar, and then it says Jo Kich Paaeaa, so ekavar. And I absolutely love this. I'm going to actually read out the translation that we've done. Is that, so whatever was put into the creation from the primal sound was put in there once, meaning that once that sound came from the formless, we've gone through that multiple times, and I always get tempted to do it again, but no, that's covered. But once that sound came, what that sound contains, where everything has come from, and our brains can only really perceive what is around us on this little planet Earth, but there's so much more, obviously, and but it wasn't that then the formless, that one thought, I messed up, I didn't get it right, not everything's in it, that I've missed something out that is needed for this creation to exist and be what it's gonna be. Like everything was just in there. And then Maharaj says, Kar Vekhai, Sirjan Har. Maybe you wanna say something about, let me just do the literal translation for the Sangat first. And so Kar sounds like when you just keep doing something, and then Kar Vekhai. But what this is saying is that as everything is happening, so what we've put here is that which the one has created. So from that sound, and now it's just Vaheguru is allowing that sound to just continue whichever direction it goes. As that's just folding out, as per the will and the nature of that sound, of how it works. Essentially, that sound is just desire. It's just something that will continue growing whichever direction you take it. And it's going into how many directions. That's why we've got so many different worlds and other universes. And I don't know what's been proven, by the way, but that is just the nature of, and then that's just happening. It's all happening as per that current sound. Yeah, however that works, whatever the nature of it is, of how it happens. So like we're a part of that. This body, this mind is a part of that sound current. We're not separate to it. So I've heard somebody put it in this way: if it was the Big Bang that happened, if that's the way it happened, so we could say we know that Guru has told us that happened through from the formless, there was a stillness, and from the stillness came a sound. And let's just say when the sound first occurred, that was the Big Bang. But it's not that we are separate to the Big Bang. We are the Big Bang that is still happening. Yeah. As in the body and the mind. So you're taking it one direction, I'm taking it one direction. And that's how the nature of that sound current is. Yeah. It could be taken whichever way, whoever is experiencing it in whatever form in this moment. We're experiencing that as a human at the moment with this body, whichever direction we take that. But something within that, as the Kar, as it's all happening, yeah, there's something deep within it that is Vekhai, that isn't entangled in the sound current. There's still a stillness within it all that is able to watch it all just fold out, whichever direction it goes. And some texts, and even the old Indian texts, has referred to that as the observer, the witness, the watcher, whatever you want to call it. And then Kar Vekhai Sirjanhar. And who is that? Is the actual Sirjanhara, the one that is the creator. What comes to mind as you hear that?
One thing is about passivity versus being active. You gave an analogy about this, about driving a car. Do you want to go through that? What am I gonna?
Yeah, do it.
Oh, okay.
Do it.
Just about like when you're driving a car, you don't. If you're sitting and accepting it, you can accept the fact that you are here in this situation, and that's okay. And you can deal with the fact and stop resisting the fact that I'm stuck in this traffic jam. So it's fine. I'm okay. But then that doesn't mean you turn your engine off and stop driving. I think that's an important thing that I've been trying to learn, in terms of it's very easy to, okay, it's not easy, but you can get to a point where when you do meditation, when you do part, like you get like some level of elevation, or like just level of peace. But then it's hard to take that into the daily life. It's hard to go from sitting still and just doing part to then going into the world and being able to still keep that observer kind of mentality.
I've thought about that many times, and I've thought, okay, so what would it take then? And the truth is, it's happened in different ways for different people. And I would say to remain as that observer, the Vekhai Sirjanhar, where from that absolute place of stillness, you are just unentangled and you are watching it all. And I think it will be different for different people of how that will happen. For some people, depending on their energy and their garam, their karma, basically how dense it is, and it might be that they need to spend more time in sitting for longer, and then they're able to carry that being observer into their life. But for some people, it might be the opposite. It might be some people where they try to sit initially for longer in meditation, in doing jop, in chanting, and whatever that might look like for them. But somebody else might need the opposite. They may need to do more hands-on, so physical work or seva, to then be in that state. So again, you have to be intuitive to yourself, or sometimes a Gurmukha Mahapurkha Sant, somebody that is already spiritually there and have and they have that insight to themselves and others, they may be able to then help you in saying that, you know what, you need more of this to be there. Yeah. But that isn't then fixed. It might be then in 6 months' time or in a year's time, it will mess you up actually if you continue doing that much physical work or whatever task it is, or the seva. But it was what was required for your energy at that time for you to be more conscious, and or to take you closer to being more conscious. And then sometimes we can start learning this about ourselves. You will know. Sometimes you just sit, and if you go inside and you start reading yourself, and you'll know, actually at this moment I think I need to just be doing some physical work, and that will start balancing your energy out. That will help you to be more of that observer, to be able to not get caught in this play of life. But then if you're intuitive enough, you will know, actually I need some time out, I need some solitude, and I need to just sit. And then you again, it comes down to that disconnect to the self. Same as the food, same as then this. So coming then back to Kar Vekhai Sirjanhar, it's a crazy game, because right now that we're so overly identified with being this body, but it's saying that you can actually watch it, Vekhai. And we're so overly identified even with thoughts. You can watch them. But even that's even shown now, like where they refer to something as metacognition, where you become aware. But consciousness is even
Deeper than that. Yeah.
deeper than that. You can be aware of awareness, like as in you can be conscious of the awareness that watches the thoughts. Yeah, because that consciousness you could even experience outside of your body, of the sensory experience of your body, where you think you end here. But the Vekhai, that one that watches, if you meditate deep enough, you can come to that realization that there's a consciousness that isn't separate to the consciousness that's inside of me, that is also around me. And you don't feel separate to it. The boundary of your body doesn't now stop it. It's there as well. Right now. It's there right now. And that's why then Maharaj said that if you start to recognize that we look at that Shabad, everyone talks about the line of Man tu jot swaroop hai apna mool pachan. In that Shabad, there's a line where it talks about mool pachane, tash ho jane.
Yeah.
So it says mool pachane, tash ho jane. What that means is, when you recognize the mool within you, then you recognize it outside of you as well. That's why Guru Gobind Singh Ji then says, Jatar tatar varti. Like, oh, ta sare paase varta da pe aaya. Like, he's working everywhere. Wherever you go, or is it Chatar Chakar? Sorry. So Chatar Chakar Varti and Chatar Chakar Pugte. And so Varti means Vartada, where someone exists, is in all places. But you can experience that. And then you start to realize, oh, okay, the Vekhai is deep within all of this that is happening. And in that place, there's no dukh, there's no sukh. It's beyond pleasure, it's beyond pain. And you just think, oh, that's interesting. So,
how would you differentiate the words that Guruji uses in terms of, they describe Sukh and they describe Anand? what would you say to those terms?
Sometimes
what,
the
what is
word,
it? What pointing to?
sometimes the word Sukh in Gurbani is referring to Anand, which is not dependent on something or on anything, and it's just that internal experience of the watcher. So the experience of the watcher is the actual Anand. Yeah. That is clarified by Gurbani. Sahaj Anand Base Bairagi. That a true Bairagi, the one that is yearning for the truth, they exist in the place of Sahaj Anand. They're not separate states. Meaning that Sahaj, which is the stillness, is the Anand. And sometimes Gurbani will use the word Sukh in that context. And then sometimes the word Sukh is used in the context of pleasure, where they say Sukh dukh jeh par se nahi lobh moh abhiman. That's in the context of this Sukh is pleasure. And then there's an opposite to it, which is then pain, or there's a down, you've got the whole dopamine.
Yeah, you oscillate between the highs and the lows constantly.
So that's Sukh dukh. Was that your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so Kar Vekhai Sirjanhar. So what I will say is use this as a meditative practice. There's so many lines in Gurbani, we just say them and we're done with them. Like, don't be done with your part. I actually do hear people say, and I remember saying, I made a joke once and I said, imagine if somebody said I just banged out my part and somebody face switched in the group. I was like, what's happened? They're like, oh, I say that. And then somebody else laughed. There's like, yeah, I say that too. And I think that's why then we then end up doubting Gurbani, because every so often, I'm not saying do it with every line, but there should be at least one body, one line, two lines where it takes you into that state, where you get there and you go, Kar Vekhai Sirjanhar, and for a moment you get a glimpse of the Vekhai Sirjanhar. From that perspective, you start seeing the world, and you have a little moment of, Acha, I can actually watch all of this. I thought that's all I was. And then you can say, I didn't bang it out today. I actually did it. Huh? I actually did it today. Nanak Sache ki Saachee Kaar. This is beautiful, this is. And so what we've done here is we've translated, obviously, Sache is that true one. So the one that is Vekhai, when you can go deep enough to watch everything that is changing, that will one day come to an end, that is the Sacha. So that's the Nanak Sache ki Saachee Kaar. The Kaar, the way everything is working, the Kaar means the way of this creation is Saachee. We've put here entirely complete, meaning that it works perfectly in the sense that it's equal for everyone the way it works. It's not one rule for one and one rule for another. The way this nature works, the Kaar works, the way of this creation is the same for everyone. It does not discriminate. That's what love means as well. When there's no discrimination, that's love. It's the same for everyone. That's love in the sense of oneness. So when people would say, oh, why did Jugraj get cancer? He was such a nice person. He was a pracharak. He did so much for the Panth. I said, because Waheguru is love. What? I said, because he didn't treat him differently. If Waheguru did, then it wouldn't be Waheguru. Then we'd be playing with what certain religions believe, where there is a shaitan or a devil or something else other than Waheguru exists as well that has control or power. There isn't. It's Saachee Kaar. It's based on love. It's the same for everyone. You use it in a certain way, and that comes back to the food. You eat certain foods, the consequence is what the consequence is. And that's why, hence, there's been plenty of sants that have had diabetes as well. Because the way that food and everything is reacting with them isn't going to be different. And that's called love. That's the Saachee Kaar, the same for everyone. Cool, isn't it?
I think I understand the logic. Obviously, you've been through it a lot. And it's difficult, though, especially when people have been through hardships, to actually sit there and be like, this is okay, because it is that. It is love.
But and that's what love means.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to the way we've often thought what love is based on our human interpretation or understanding of that. You make me feel good. I love you, Avtar. It's because of our interpretation of love, of the programming of what we think love is. We don't see love as that energy that treats everyone the same, being love. We associate, because that's the definition of love according to Guru Granth Sahib Ji. You waiting for the line?
Yeah, I was waiting for it.
It's a common line that I use. Ek nadar kar vekhai sab upar, jeha pao, teha phal paiye. Ek nadar is Waheguru's love. Just one vision. Not two, not three. That's what Guru Gobind Singh Ji said. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji were only 5 years old, 5, 6 maybe, there was a Rani who in Patna who was longing to have a child, and she was told to call out from her heart to Gobind Rai by the Pandit of that town. Call out to Gobind Rai who will fulfill your desire, and he has the power to bless you with a child. So she was calling out in her heart, sat at home for Gobind Rai, who was 5 years old at the time, to come to her house to bless her to have a child. But something happened during her bhakti, during her devotion. She said, I'm still so caught up in this desire. So she said, you know what? Let me for a moment not call him so that he can come to give me something else. Let me just call him and put a full stop there. So she just started calling out Rani Mani. So she just started calling out and using the word Bala Pritam. Pritam means beloved, Bala means child. And that's it though, there was nothing else attached to it now. So when Guru Gobind Singh Ji came and sat in her lap, when they heard that call, when now it was pure, there was nothing else attached to it. And now Guru Gobind Singh, well, she's calling me now. 5 years old, turns up at her palace. She's there. By Veer Singh writes about this, and there's a little picture as well showing that moment. She's got her eyes closed and is saying Bala Pritam, and Bala Pritam goes and sits in her laps. When she opens her eyes and she sees that Bala Pritam's there, then she goes to touch their feet, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's feet, Charan, and they said, nahi, maa de haath ਪੈਰਾਂ ਵੱਲ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਮਾਂ ਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਤਾਂ ਸਿਰ ਉੱਪਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੋਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਠਾ, ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਬਣ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ. And they called her Ma. So they fulfilled everything for her. But that day when Gobind Rai went back home, and Mata Gujri, their mother, said, Lal kithe si? Lal's another name, means beloved as well. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਲਾਲ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਸੀ? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਖੋਰਮਾ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਅੱਜ। Where was he? He said, I made another mother today. They go, ਦੋ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀਆਂ? How will you have two mothers? ਤੂੰ ਦੋ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਗੋਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਬੈਠੂੰਗਾ? And this is mom, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਚੰਦ ਬਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ ਦੋ ਦਰਿਆਵਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। And they said, just like the moon, even if there's two ponds, will reflect in both ponds equally. ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਰੱਬ, ਇਹਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ, ਜਿਹਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਆ। ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਚੰਦ ਆ, ਉਹ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਇੱਕ ਦਰਿਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਝਲਕੀ ਮਾਰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਨਹੀਂ, ਦੋਨੇ ਦਰਿਆਵਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਬਰਾਬਰ ਉਹਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਝਲਕੀ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਆ। Translate that. Chand, the moon didn't discriminate to say, I'm going to reflect differently in this pond and differently in this pond because I love that pond more. Both ponds happen to be there. So they both got the reflection of the moon equally. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, that's who I am. Whoever opens their heart to me, whether it's a mother and she opens her choli to say, Mera bacha ban ja, this is main oda bacha ban jana. ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਹੂਗਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੀਰ ਬਣ ਜਾ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀਰ ਬਣ ਜਾਊਂਗਾ। Said whoever, said I'm there for everyone equally based on their ਭਾਵਨਾ, on their devotion. Jeha pao. Pao here can mean devotion. Based on your heart's devotion, the intensity of your devotion, teha phal paiye. Odi nadar ek ya. The vision is one, but the phal that you will gain, the fruit that you will gain from the ek nadar will be different, because that now depends on how much you open your heart to it. So, ਪਿਆਰ ਦਾ ਭਾਵ ਇਹ ਆ, ਮੇਰੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਇੱਕ ਆ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਪ੍ਰੇਮ actually means that my vision is one for everyone. If it's not, ਫਿਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਹਿਰਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ, ਰੱਬ ਵਾਲਾ ਪਿਆਰ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ। If it's not, that vision isn't one, then what I have in my heart isn't yet that divine love. It's still on some level, some sort of emotional based love on your specific actions and I have for you because of the identity or how you related to me potentially, and then you might have a different identity, so I see you differently even though you might be doing the same actions. Hana? Rabb nahi idda. So that's basically Nanak, Sache ki Saachee Kaar. That's what Saachee Kaar is. So I know you expressed something a bit more logical, but then that Saachee just came into my mind.
Yeah, no,
and it became a bit more magical.
Yeah, that's life though. Yeah, we've had this discussion before though, obviously.
Yeah.
My mind is logical, but my Sikhi is completely just, it doesn't make sense logically. Like, it's just feeling.
Yeah. So I've done that for myself. Like you said, I've got my struggles still. I still have certain mental battles. We'll call it mental health issues, illness, whatever you want to call it. But I have done that. I've sat down and said, thank you for being what you are and I'm getting treated the same based on how I'm interacting with this world. I'm receiving what I'm supposed to receive. And that is your love, that you're not treating me any differently. So it is something I try and remind myself. I do obviously forget, but I do that as a practice for myself personally. I don't know if you've done that.
No, but I might do now. It's easy to say thanks for the good things, and sometimes I say thanks for the good things, for the bad things too, because I feel like, for example, without having depression, I would not know what like life is. Like, I appreciate even like having Sikhi. I know what that means to me. It's very rich because I grew up not having that. Then when I found Sikhi, I was like, oh my God, like this is, oh my God. But if you always have that, how would you know? So that oscillation is like, it's uncomfortable in the moment and have that like down feeling, but it's like it makes the high even higher because it makes you be like, wow, thanks. I got to experience. It makes like the down literally makes it easier to be grateful for the higher bits, and it's like, whoa, didn't expect that. And then suddenly, when you feel that gratitude though for the high and for the low, then suddenly you're just in the middle, and it's just like everything's all good. Thanks for that. Like,
and then you become Vekha Sirjanhar. Then you're in the Vekha, and then you become the witness. You know? And just to give that clarification to Sangat, it's not that somebody called God gives you something intentionally. It's as per the Kaar, as per the workings of everything. It's all working in its intuitive way, and whatever genes we might have ended up with, even that is based on the Kaar, Saachee Kaar, and then whatever we have come with, and however we are living and interacting with the world, and then hence then for example, depression is a consequence of that. It's all based on it not treating anything differently. And then whatever I do with that depression is what you spoke about, is where it could potentially push you towards, so it could take you from there to that, because depression is isolation, loneliness, disconnection. But from that can be born is longing, and it's only longing that will then cause connection, and that will fall into create connection. So somehow for you that happened, and for some of us it happens regularly. We go back and forth, but one day will come where jo har kant milaiyan se vichhad kathe na hai. Gurbani does talk about a state where there's no separation ever again. So that will come too. Thank you for being part of this conversation. We're just going to finish off with the last part of that body now, which again I personally do as a meditation for myself, which we've been doing now for the last 3 episodes, which is Ades. Ades is when you bow down to that one, truly from inside, when everything comes together. Whether you do the physical actions can help our inside catch up. So it's that Ades. Ades. Guru Nanak is saying that bow down to that one. That is Ad. And then every moment of these words, with each word, take a moment to experience Ad. That you have always existed even before this body, even before time and space. Ad. Your very true essence has always existed. Anil. Anil is that you are beyond any colors of the creation, your true essence. Anad. You are without a beginning. Anahat. The true essence cannot be destroyed. There is no hatya. It's anahat. Jug. Eko ves. You are the unchanging throughout all the ages and time. Deep inside of you, you are eko ves, the same, unchanging and still. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.